Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond, and today on Thrive Loud, we have the founder and president of Culture Crossing, Inc., a global boutique consultancy dedicated to consciously empowering organizations to reach their full human potential. His workshops, seminars, and speaking events have drawn more than 125,000 people on 5 different continents. He hasn't gone to Antarctica yet because it's way too cold down there. And his best-selling book, Culture Crossing, is the essential primer to working, living, and thriving in today's increasingly multicultural marketplace and communities, which is why he's here on Thrive Loud today. Thrive Loud listeners, I bring you Michael Anders. Michael, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Lou. Thanks for having me, and hello to everybody. Great to be here.
All right, I'm excited to hit this topic because we've had many coaches, we've had many leaders. We have lots of people dealing with a very challenging work environment these days. And the importance of culture in business is becoming even more prevalent today. The importance of culture, business, and bringing all the equality, DEI measures, trying to understand all the multicultural issues is even more important today than we've ever had it. So you're sitting at a very important, pun intended here, culture crossroads. I want to do a little rewind here, Michael. I want to kind of understand how this thing you're doing right now became your gig.
Yeah, no, good question. And you're right, kind of sitting on this precipice of where culture is. How do we cross it? How do we cultivate it? How do we kind of change it if it's not where we want it? And some of your listeners might be looking at this and go, wait, you're a culture guy and you specialize in DE&I as well? And wait a minute, you're a double majority. You are a white guy. Yes, I am. And that's what I have to tell my audiences a lot. Because on the outside, you see that. And I'm Michael Anders. I'm from the States. I'm originally from Boston. But I grew up my whole life in Latin America. From 3 to 18, I grew up in countries throughout Latin America because my father ran international schools. So 3 to 18 in Colombia, Brazil, Dominican Republic. So while on the outside, I might look quote unquote American, I identify more Latino on the inside. And that's really shaped my life, how to navigate all these cultures as a child and through as a teenager. And then as an adult, I lived in Japan and I came back and got a master's degree in intercultural relations, which is really an exploration of how identity is formed. Yeah. And then once you understand that and people's mental models, you kind of clue in on how they can be developed and shifted and changed. And my work really began on helping people cross cultures, executives, leaders, managers going from one country to another. How do I adapt? How do I change? How do I live effectively? But more importantly then, how do I lead? How do I cultivate, let's say, the culture from a USHQ in Japan, with also keeping in mind that the Japanese local culture is going to really impact how that business does. Yeah. And then how do I cultivate a culture of a startup? And then specifically within companies, we moved into how do I cultivate a culture of inclusion? How do I cultivate a culture of accountability? And so that's kind of where my work has progressed from just helping people cross cultures to then how to cultivate it and then embed those core leadership and managerial skills into a specific culture or change a culture that is not kind of living up to the standards that we seek or the future that we hope.
I want to state something that might be a little challenging here, and that is, and it's a business related one. So I'll play a little devil's advocate here. Inclusion is a good thing. No one's doubting that. We always want to be more inclusive in our communities, but a lot of businesses will argue the most important color I want to see in my business is green. I want to see a company that's making money. I want to see things that are going this way. And it might not matter who is in those particular roles. I don't care what that is, who the people are. And I know that money might not be the most important thing to be focusing on these days? I know that's an important message here because if you're creating a community in a business, but let's make it clear, a lot of these people are in business to make money. Help me draw this comparison, balancing successful businesses that are trying to thrive on their bottom line and at the same time trying to create a place that people want to feel connected to and fit all the different cultures together.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. And so in the work that I've done over the years, I did a lot of work of diversity and inclusion, and I was always separating the two. Both are important, right? And then we have other letters that go into that: equality, justice, Jedi work. But in the D&I work, I really separated diversity away from inclusion. Everything's known as D&I, and I was like, they're different things. They're both important, but they're different things. So I focused heavily on inclusion. And typically people want, we need to be inclusive of people of different backgrounds and colors. I'm like, yes, for sure. But we also need to be inclusive and have an inclusive mindset that allows for innovation and creativity, right? And productivity. All things that are important to most businesses because they lead to, a better product, a better customer experience, which tends to lead to more profits, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And so to answer your question, that's kind of what we looked at, which is saying there's all these different components of inclusive. And if we're going to build in an inclusive culture, it's not just about people, it's about all those other components. But the bottom line that we see in kind of research is when you have a heterogeneous group, you're going to have more challenges to kind of get along and be productive. But once you figure that out, you're going to be more profitable and more productive than you are with a homogeneous group. And in the past, we could kind of make those decisions and say, no, I want to be more homogeneous. But in today's society, we're very heterogeneous. And then the more we explore identities, the more diverse we see people are beyond culture, race, ethnicity. And so as a leader, if you have the ability to really understand that and cultivate that culture that does make people feel inclusive, I see a direct link to profits. And I also think the opposite. When I don't feel inclusive, when it's not going well, it's going to affect my bottom line, and I'm going to be less creative, less innovative. So all those things are connected, at least in that inclusive space that I see.
I played volleyball in college, so that was the greatest bump set spike, and obviously taking the devil's advocate and putting it into place. But that's where I was going. Thank you for reading
there you
through
go.
it. But I think there is something to be said, though, about the challenges of genuinely creating that culture environment versus maybe, I don't want to use this term, but I think it's applicable. There are organizations that are really just trying to make sure they check the boxes.
Oh yeah.
And one is certainly more authentic and more heartfelt, and other one feels forced. Okay. I would imagine the latter is probably where you're needed most in those organizations that haven't done it really effectively. But obviously there's other ones that have made it a priority from the very beginning. And that's where I want to go with. This is a core tenet that should be something that any of these organizations think about, is how we work together. And I'm not just talking about different cultures from different places, women in the workplace, how maternity and paternity leave is handled, changes of locations, working from home, working in the office. All of these things are all part of what makes work today a little bit different than what human resources, the world's worst title for something, it was like people resources, right? For doing this. So in balancing all that together, I guess I want to say is there one challenge or one problem that you're seeing more often than not?
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with what you shared, and definitely a challenge. There's always a gap between the intended culture and what unintentionally shows up.
Yeah.
And so when I talk to companies a lot of times early on, they're like, oh yeah, we have a wonderful culture. Our culture is amazing, right? And I'm like, uh-oh, there's problems. Because inevitably, once I get a little deeper, the culture isn't amazing. There's some major issues going on. When I talk to people to say, hey, this is what we're trying to build, I don't know if we're there yet. I think we still have some gaps. I'm like, okay, these people probably get it. Because culture is amorphous. Trying to hold it and fit it and say, no, this is what we do, and we have a great culture here, and this is how we've achieved it, and our leader does this. There's truth to that. But I really see people not being truly aware of what they think they want and how they think they're going to get there.
In getting there, talk to me about some of the steps that you help organizations help them figure this out, because that's the journey is really the issue here, is how they go about it. What's the process they go through? Walk our listeners through a little bit about your work. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So I'm going to share this little story, which is what happens to me a bunch, which is part of my job, whether it's a coach or a consultant, or leading seminars and stuff, is to show people the mirror, right? I try to hold up what I observe and see from an ideally non-judgmental part. I'm just saying, hey, this is what I'm observing, this is what I'm seeing, or this is what your people are saying, but it's more about what I'm seeing in them. And when I show and hold up that mirror, one of three things tends to happen. One way is, which is a positive in my mind, is when people go, "Whoa, my hair looks like that, or my face looks like that, or I got to change. I didn't think let's change my sweater. That doesn't work. Okay, cool, good." That's one. Number two is, no, that's not me. I don't want to look at that mirror anymore, right? Mm. So it's denial, and we see that a lot. And then the third thing that happens is people break the mirror, take the shards of the broken mirror and stab the person holding that, which is me, and that's when I get fired.
Wow.
Okay. And a lot of times, sorry, go ahead. You got something?
No. I'm like, I got to keep my distance when I'm talking to Michael here, just in case any sharp loose edges comes out. But yes.
But the thing is, you're the right one. So you get it's like if a lot of times with social leaders, if they see that and they can't handle what that's saying about them as a leader, they can't separate what people are seeing with their own ego and their own baggage. They're going to be like, fire that consultant. He doesn't know what he's talking about, right? I'm not saying that happens that often, but I can tell when it's going to happen. And typically I don't engage to that point because I can already see what's going to happen. But the process is can you objectively show people what's going on? And can they see it and say, I want to adjust. I want to get better. And that's not the norm in my experience, Lou. I don't know about with you. I know you've been doing this for a long time, but that's not the norm that I see. But I hope people can grow to it.
I'm thinking about it. I actually think it's getting better. I think there is, there under the category of things that I felt forced when I worked in large consulting organizations, they would have 360 reviews and all of those pieces that I don't know if you know this. Not too long ago, the company that is now known as Accenture, it used to be Anderson Consulting years ago. Mm-hmm. Accenture just got rid of annual reviews, getting rid of the whole review process for the first time.
Yeah, huge.
And it was a huge deal, but it was a very important one. It had two messages. One was you would do this review in the beginning of the year to review what you did over the last 12 or your forecast of what you would do over the next one. And time and projects are so short, and that looking at a year is looking at like 5 years. And I remembered feeling, even back in the day, I worked at Anderson a long time ago, those reviews were almost forced upon us so that we could figure it out. And we could see where leaders should be or how we can be looking at ourselves in the mirror as a better leader in an organization. I believe that's actually now part of it. We all need that feedback now. There's more executive leaders have great coaches. There's executive teams are creating accountability partners and groups, and there's so much internal communication that I believe they're creating an environment that is setting everything up for what you're talking about. That's setting up for that leader to be able to be a little more introspective. And if we all look that way, how much better we could be, which is basically making sure we do our best job as leaders. And I think that's getting better. I agree with you that egos and other things make it sometimes more challenging. And is the reason why they need people like you in their organizations who really do look in the mirror and make sure, let's check these things out so we can figure out where, just because no one can operate brain surgery on themselves. We all got to do something and get that outside input to be able to figure out how we could look at ourselves. So that, I think it's that cross between the two.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I think that's right, and I agree with you. I think the taking out those year-end reviews is powerful too, because they were so tied to compensation, and I was just assuming that everything needed to be fixed and set, and you didn't achieve if you didn't achieve. So I like what they're doing there, but I think the thing when you look at kind of cultivating culture and trying to shift that or change that or adapt it, one of the things that I see is I have to acknowledge that it might not be there yet. Mm. And that's a tough one for people that have been doing it for a while. And I also see this a lot in sports teams, right? Where they build cultures that go on for years. And sometimes those, that doesn't mean they're going to win the championship every time, but they're really about behaviors, right? That's what I see. And I can walk into a place and go, what's the culture here? I don't need to read the value on the board or the colors that people are wearing or how much money they've made or not. I witness what people are doing and saying. And those behaviors kind of really, to me, speak to culture. Yeah. And it's back to what you said, is how people treat others and how they themselves are treated.
One of the things I love to ask people who've written books like yourself, messages. You've given a gift to the world in putting this great piece of content out there, and then people can learn from it as a guide and how they can go about it. But often there's a happy accident that the author receives, a gift in themselves in creating this content. Michael, and specifically in the most recent piece that you put out there, is there a gift that you've received in creating this this message that everyone seems to be utilizing to basically almost as a handbook and a guidebook these days?
Definitely. Again, I don't know if the content's that good, but definitely there's been some gifts. I think the biggest gift that you kind of receive on one side, which is people commenting on how it impacted them and what they use it for, or stories themselves that they share that they've experienced kind of within the context of what I shared. And the stories are the gift, because not only are they fascinating and interesting and I can repeat them back to people, but there's a lesson in them that I learned from the story. And that's probably the biggest gift that I get. That's it. Just the stories that people share that impact them.
You've been thriving in your business for quite some time. You're obviously got a successful message, a successful practice, business. We're going to talk about some of the offerings very shortly in a moment.
Sure.
But the reason you're on this program here is because on most days you're thriving. You're kicking on all cylinders, which is awesome. But we all have those days when we're a little off our game and we're not quite thriving. Michael, when you have trouble doing so, what practice do you seek, or which individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track?
Yeah, so that's definitely been a reality throughout my career, and probably more so, as I've gotten to the higher echelons of the career, right? To sustain and maintain, and for me, it's always to iterate. And so when I have those days, one, I don't tend to overreact like I used to on them, right? I tend to really say, okay, this is happening, and trying to stay as present as possible in those moments, and trying to take some space to kind of sit and observe it outside myself, if you will, versus being so caught up in it. I find myself being able to get there quicker than I used to. And those days would last longer and feel deeper than they do these days. And I'd say the simplest thing is I just started really following the Frozen mentality, the Disney movie, Frozen 1 versus 2, which is let it go.
You're going to break into song? Hopefully not here.
No, definitely not. But no, seriously, like we hold on to so much. And in those days, I think we hold on tighter.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the message that I'm saying is like, where can I either let go or loosen up? And by doing that, I'm seeing, the moments that happen kind of go more peaceful.
Yeah.
Right. And I think Eckhart Tolle was sharing this, which is, what do you want your relationship to be with the present moment? Whether whether you're stuck in traffic or you're having one of those days, and you really ask yourself that question, and I do at those points, and I'm like, do I want to be super stressed out right now and pissed off? Or do I want to breathe and just go, hey, let's let some of that go and work through it? I'm not delusional saying like everything's amazing, but how much of the holding on and the stress am I creating that experience to be worse than it has to be?
I think that's the reason I love the movie Groundhog Day so much. But anyway, that's a total digression.
Yes, no, totally true. He's a little slow, so it had to happen to multiple times before he's like, what do I want this present moment to be? And then it becomes beautiful, right? It becomes amazing.
And he's living in the moment and getting the best out of it. I think that's
exactly.
Let's do the admin part of the show. Share with the listeners all the places people can find you, websites. You've got some offers and programs that are coming out. This is we're recording this in January, but it's airing in early February. So share with the listeners all the places they can learn about you, Michael Landers.
Yeah. I'm not going to flood people with handles and social media. I'm pretty allergic to it. So I tend to just operate on one, which is LinkedIn. But the place that if you want to find out a little bit more, there's a lot of resources there too. It's just my website. Google Culture Crossing. You'll find it. It's www.culturecrossing.net. But if you Google Culture Crossing or Michael Landers, it'll pop up. And it's got a lot of resources on there in addition to a free guide for every country in the world on cross-cultural etiquette. You'll find some of the case studies of work that we've done with people, which includes our culture practice, our leadership practice, and organizational transformation. And in particular, we have a new tool as well as a workshop at Seminar and Consulting around integrated excellence, which is a confluence of culture, operational excellence, and organizational effectiveness. It's kind of a one-of-a-kind thing. We don't tend to see that often, those three things together. But the integrated excellence instrument quickly measures those three elements of your company, and you get a quick snapshot of where you are, and it comes with recommendations on how you can improve, maintain, or sustain areas like productivity, alignment, culture, and customer centricity.
Love
So
it.
culturecrossing.net would be the place that I would suggest people to go to.
Listeners need to check it out for one reason only. He's got one of the cooler marks or logos, as we call them, in his Culture Crossing. You'll see it and you'll understand it when it brings these, looks like worlds together, almost eclipsing, but overlapping in the worlds. Just someone that likes connecting. I like it a lot. I'm a graphics guy.
Cool. I appreciate that.
Are you ready to roll down Fun Street with me here, Michael?
Let's do it.
All right. Can you share with me what you shared with the listeners is one of your all-time favorite movies?
Yeah. So one of my all-time favorite movies is the movie Papillon, the original one. They just did a remake with Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman. And I saw it a long time ago when I was like a little kid, and it was already been out for many years. But I've watched it again and again, and it's a true story. But really what stayed with me is both characters age in the movie. And this is before CGI and crazy makeup. And so seeing the acting prowess of both those gentlemen, Steve McQueen, Dustin Hoffman, as they age. But there's a part in it towards the end every time, and no matter when I watch it, it elicits the same emotion from me, which is tears. And to see and know that it's coming and they can still do it each time, that's one of the hallmarks for me of some art that really kind of impacts. So Papillon is the original. The remake was okay, but going with the original.
I like that. I get that, and It's a Wonderful Life when he runs through the old city and he goes, "Hello, old building and loan." I'm Waterfalls at that point, but that's a whole other movie and a whole other stuff. But Papillon is excellent, and I did see the remake, and it was not as good. It's good, but it was not as good. It never is, right?
Yeah.
You're also dealing with two like legendary actors, which always
it's kind of hard. Yeah. So.
All right, you're ready to do the speed round with me here on Fun Street. It's basically we're gonna make you take a shot of gumption, which most people just use water, but it's basically a chance to go through the Speakeasy pub crawl. We're gonna stroll down Fun Street. All these questions I'm gonna ask you are very fun things. They're what you make you thrive, or what you might think about, or unique things that only matter to you, and there's no wrong answers. Are you ready?
I like it. Yep.
Okay. Of late, is there a song that you love to listen to, or one that pumps you up?
So I've just recently got back into records.
Ooh.
And I'm finding myself listening to vinyl on like a cheap Amazon vinyl player. And what it's doing is it's forcing me to actually listen and sit through music without clicking halfway through or onto the next song or double clicking my AirPod. So I've been really like listening to music, and this is going to date me, but I got like Dark Side of the Moon from Pink Floyd.
Nice.
And just, Us and Them, just side one. I'm just going to go with side one. It's been kind of just like good stuff. Yeah.
You just made the producers really happy on this episode. You'll understand when you listen to it. All right. A favorite food that is not a dessert.
A favorite food is an usher. So, in August of last year, I moved back to Bogota, Colombia, where I grew up, so my daughter could have an experience. So I'm calling you from that. I was in 15 years living in Silicon Valley before that. So a favorite food that I hadn't had for a long time that I'm eating probably too much of is just the Colombian empanada, which is a kind of corn-based stuffed savory snack that can be filled with meat, chicken, or cheese.
Just to be clear, my wife is from Bogota, Colombia, and we have a mutual friend we haven't given the shout out of, Mark Avenami.
That's the connection. I see.
Yes,
okay,
and Mark
so,
is
so your wife's a Rolo.
Yes, exactly, and Mark is an avid Thrive Loud listener, so we're giving him a shout out here. But he's also from Colombia, and I would actually argue that I like the pan de bono the best, the little breakfast cheesy bunny thing from Colombia, Bogota. So that's my take. That's one of mine. Love that. So if anyone goes to Bogota, go check it out. A favorite dessert?
My favorite dessert. Can you see me? Oh, there.
Oh yeah, we got a little queued up. We're okay. It all caught up. It's just queuing.
Okay, got it. A favorite dessert. I'm going to stay with Colombia, and it's the arequipe ice cream.
Oh, okay. An activity you wish you did more of?
It's going to sound weird, but meditate.
Okay. No, it's a good one. An activity you wish you did less of?
Get frustrated. I don't know if that's an activity though.
It's a good one, and I think you were getting frustrated trying to think about what was the activity you do less of. An activity you've recently tried that's new to you.
I think so.
An activity you recently tried that's new to you, that you like so much, you want to tell everybody else to try it.
These are good ones. Yeah, I tried pickleball.
We're big fans here. I like it.
And I liked it. I think it's because my knees are going, but like it's ping pong meets tennis. So yes, try it. And you can do it with an alcoholic beverage if you want it. You don't have
if
to.
You want
you
it.
could and still play well.
Some of the guys I play with, it's serious. The drinks are coming afterwards. You got to put your mind into it.
I like it. Yeah.
If I could snap my fingers, Michael Landers, and you could be anywhere in the world, where are you?
Right here, right now, where I am in Bogota.
Not surprising with somebody who wrote a book called Present Company. So obviously keeping in the moment and being in the moment here. Michael, thank you so much for coming on Thrive Loud. Continued success to you, Culture Crossing. Love what you're doing. Love that you're giving that daughter that experience. We went back in 2019 to go check out Bogota. It was a ton of fun. A lot of great places out there. And keep bringing the world together, because I think that's what you're doing. So great stuff here, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Next time you're here, you look me up. We'll definitely go get an empanada or a pan de bono for sure.
Done. To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.